Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to a special edition of APTN National News, where we're looking back on the life and legacy of the late Murray Sinclair. The Honorable Justice Sinclair passed away on November 4th at the age of just 73 years old. He'd been in a Winnipeg hospital for months. Sinclair was a prominent Anishinaabe man who left quite the legacy. With more on his life, here's T.R. Wheatley.
Justice Murray Sinclair was most known for leading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. 5 years he traveled the country, hearing stories of survivors of the Indian residential school system. That work led to a report with 94 calls to action.
What the government of Canada did was cultural genocide.
He was a fourth-degree chief of the Midewin Society. His spirit name, Mijinegiijik, an Anishinaabe name meaning one who speaks of pictures in the sky. A member of the Peguis First Nation, he was born on January 24, 1951. He died in hospital early Monday morning with his family by his side. Within hours, flags lowered outside the Manitoba legislature and a teepee set up for a sacred fire where Premier Wab Kinew was also helping with preparations.
I just hope that everybody takes a moment to remember this great, amazing person who's one of the true greats of our time from any walk of life, and he did something remarkable with his life. He had so many firsts that he accomplished.
Sinclair's career spanned some 45 years, first graduating from law school in 1979. 1988 was a notable year for Mijinegiijik. He became the first Aboriginal judge in Manitoba. That same year, he was named co-chair of the Aboriginal Justice Inquiry, or AJI. The AJI was called at a time when there was heightened racial tension between mainstream and Indigenous Manitobans. While the AJI looked at the entire justice system, its main focus was the 1987 trial of two men in the Paw for the brutal killing of Helen Betty Osborne in 1971 and the 1988 death of First Nations leader J.J. Harper, who was shot by a Winnipeg police officer after being racially profiled. The AJI report was released in 1991 with 296 recommendations.
The hearings themselves created a great change, a sea of change in the attitude of people towards Aboriginal justice issues.
In January 2001, Sinclair was appointed to the Court of Queen's Bench. He also started training judges on Indigenous law and social justice through the National Judicial Institute. Chief Justice of the Court of King's Bench, Glenn Joyal, worked alongside and became close with Sinclair.
When he got the call to do the TRC, he spoke to me about it. When he got the call to become a senator and finally leave the judiciary, he spoke to me about it. So I had an opportunity to see how he was answering important calls to perform a very public duty as he saw it.
Sinclair officially retired from the bench in January 2016. 3 months later, he was appointed to the Senate by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. As senator in November 2018, Sinclair penned the Thunder Bay Police Services Board investigation. It had 45 recommendations to address systemic racism in a city where Indigenous people often spoke of shoddy investigations. In June 2020, he took to social media to denounce then RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki, who didn't believe there was systemic racism within the RCMP. Get rid of the racists and you will still have a racist system, he said, referring to the fact the system, not just the people, need to change. Mijinegiijik retired from the Senate in January 2021. He said he wanted to spend more time writing his memoir. Just last month, his memoir, Who We Are, 4 Questions for a Life and a Nation, hit the shelves. The book started from writing letters to his granddaughter Sarah so she would know her family lineage. The memoir ended up becoming a 3-generation collaboration with Sarah and her father Nigan. Manitoba Kiwetanui Ugamaganuk Grand Chief Garrison Siti saying, like his legacy, his passing is far-reaching.
It's a great loss because we've had a statesman that represented Canada, but also a warrior that represented our causes. And he's been there for our people for so long, and it's hard to imagine a Canada without Murray Sinclair.
In November 2021, Sinclair began overseeing negotiations about compensating First Nations children and families entangled in the child welfare system following the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal. In July 2022, Mijinegiijik spoke out about Catholic Pope Francis's apology to survivors, saying the Church continues to harm Indigenous people with the doctrine of discovery. In August 2022, Sinclair was appointed as a special advisor and elder in residence for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. Throughout his career, Mijane Gijik received dozens of accolades, including 2 Inspire Awards, one in 1994 in the Law and Justice category, and again in 2017 for Lifetime Achievement. He also has 14 honorary doctorates from universities across Canada and was Chancellor for Queen's University for 1 term. Sheila North is the Executive Director of Indigenous Engagement at the University of Winnipeg, where Sinclair was honored in 2011. She reflects on when she first heard of Sinclair during the AJI.
Impression I had of him, that he was very smart, very straightforward, and didn't mess around. And when I met him the first time, I got that same sense that he was full of integrity, that he was the way he was behind the scenes, and he was that he held that esteem and that authority no matter who he was in front of.
In 2022, Sinclair was awarded the Adrienne Clarkson Prize for Global Citizenship. In May 2022, he received an Order of Canada, and this past summer he received the Order of Manitoba. Just last month, he also received the King Charles III's Coronation Medal. Details about funeral arrangements are still not known. Sinclair's sacred fire will remain lit here at the Manitoba Legislature for the next 4 days. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The death of Murray Sinclair also had politicians taking a pause. That included Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who spoke to media about what Sinclair meant to him.
To me, he was a teacher, a challenge function, a guide, an elder, a sage, and a friend, as he helped me and this country navigate through something that we will be navigating through for decades still, this reconciliation journey that we have taken some important strides on, but where there remains so much more to do.
At the Manitoba Legislature, people paid their respects to the late judge, senator, and Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner, including survivors and those in the law field. Again, here's T.R. Wheatley.
Traditional songs and people coming and going from this teepee mid-yard. A 4-day sacred fire burning inside until midday Thursday for the late Justice Murray Sinclair. Amongst those paying respect, residential school survivor Grandma Geraldine Shingoose.
And he said, I see you, I hear you, and I believe you.
She brought along 215 orange tobacco ties like this one to honor Sinclair and the 215 children from Kamloops, British Columbia.
He carried all that pain, our pain, and now it's our turn to carry him.
Inside the ledge, a book of condolences. It will stay here until after his public memorial on Sunday. Leah Kozakowski and Alicia Schachtner are from the Law Society of Manitoba and are amongst the thousands of people who've so far signed and left messages for Sinclair's family. Kozakowski said Sinclair helped them start an Indigenous Advisory Committee.
Can you imagine all of the different organizations that asked for his time? We know we were just one of many.
Sinclair chaired the committee the past 4 years, including developing a mandatory education program that every lawyer in the province needs to take before they can practice law here. Schachter remembers when she asked for Sinclair's help. He agreed, saying it couldn't be just lip service.
And he really helped us learn to walk the path of reconciliation and to understand how to do so in a good way, consistent with Indigenous values, and just helped us navigate what can be difficult.
While his loss continues to be felt across this country, these two from the Law Society remain committed to carrying on the 94 calls to action Sinclair penned, answering the call to educate more Indigenous people within the justice system. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We have to take a quick break, but we'll have more on the life and legacy of the late Murray Sinclair coming up. Welcome back. Murray Sinclair's career and service to the Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities in Canada was far-reaching. We had a special Truth in Politics panel just after his passing with Jennifer Leywitz of Puskwa Harbour Strategies and Mi'kmaq lawyer and professor Pam Palmater. Jennifer, Pam, thanks for being with us. Jennifer, we'll start with you. And Murray Sinclair's legacy really seems so monumental, but what are some of the things that come to your mind when thinking of the work that he did and the man that he was?
Oh, this is a tough one because it's a huge loss. And first and foremost, my thoughts are with my co-panelist Niigaan, who, is obviously going to be carrying the weight of a tremendous loss in his father. But I saw something posted on social media the other day that talked about Murray's legacy in Canada and especially, spearheading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. But think of the weight that he carried with all of the survivors' stories and testimonies across our country during that work that he did with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It was incredibly heavy work, and it would have been incredibly difficult to hear all of those stories. And he did it with so much grace. And even in the days and the years following the release of the report, he carried so much grace with him. And I think that can really highlight for Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people across the country moving forward and how we engage with each other and how we move forward in reconciliation. And Murray is one of those people that will never be replaced. He was 100% one of a kind.
Indeed, and yes, our thoughts certainly with Niigaan and the family. Pam, you shared stages with him. What are your thoughts on the mark that Murray Sinclair has left on this country?
Well, obviously, condolences, and my heart goes out to all his family and his extended family and his community, and of course Niigaan, because he will be carrying much of that weight. For me personally, he has been an incredible support. So anyone who knows me knows I get cranky from time to time, and if I'm testifying before Senate or some other place, I get really into it and really angry about the injustice, and he always had something supportive to say afterwards. Just to keep going, keep fighting, don't worry about rules or anything else. And he always had a gentle way of being with people that I totally admire. If you think about everything he went through and the threats he experienced when he was heading up the Aboriginal Justice Inquiry in Manitoba, he had every reason to be angry and bitter, and he just kept extending his hand over and over and over again, even with the most offensive questions that people would ask him. Like, who cares? Why don't we just move on? He was like, well, here, let me tell you why. And I just, he's a special person, and I just feel like that obviously it's going to be such a huge loss to us in the community, and all of his support too personally will be greatly missed.
Yeah, I'll just say I went to the public viewing yesterday, and his grade 9 math teacher was even there, just talking about the mark that he'd left and how she was still talking to him like once a month. Jennifer, how can we try to carry on some of the work that he did?
I think that's a really important piece to look at, because I was listening to Premier Wab Kanu's speech on Murray Sinclair, and honestly, the speech was one of the best that I've seen from a parliamentarian or politician in a very, very long time. But he had referenced the fact that when, trees are lost in the forest, it's up to the rest of us to essentially come together to make sure that we carry on that legacy. And it's going to be difficult. I don't think that there's going to be anybody that could ever replace Murray Sinclair. There will be people that do work to that magnitude, but he was one of a kind. And I think collectively, even if a little parts of us can come together to build onto his legacy and continue on to that work as a collective, I think that we could do that in his honor and not only continue advancing reconciliation, but make the Sinclair family proud of his legacy and the impact that it's had on the rest of us.
Pam, your thoughts on how we can honor his legacy and try to carry on that work?
I think it is to carry on. It's like no matter what happens with elections in the US or in Canada or what's happening around the world, no matter how much injustice remains or how frustrated we are, and I'm one of those very frustrated people, it is just to keep going because that's how we have hope. You know, so long as Murray was out there saying, you know, we got this, we're coming together, I have faith in Canadians, it was like, okay, even on the worst day, it's like, okay, he's out there saying that. And now it really is our responsibility. And I would hope that people wouldn't all just assume that that responsibility is all now going to fall to Niigaan, because he already does so much that it really is something that we need to spread out amongst us, because it's a lot of work to do. And thank goodness Murray has brought Canadians to the place that they're at today, something that Americans are like nowhere near where Canadians are in terms of understanding what's happened to Indigenous peoples, what's currently happening, and what needs to happen for reconciliation in the future.
Pam, Jennifer, we'll leave it there, but great to see you both. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time for one last break, and then we'll take you to the special memorial that was held for Murray Sinclair. Welcome back. A national commemorative ceremony was held in November for the late Murray Sinclair. T.R. Wheatley was there and put together this story with some of the highlights.
We honor a very special man, my father, the Honorable Murray Sinclair, Mija Nagije Keban. So, Bojo Dinwe Magaduk, Niigaan Webedam Nadishna Kosnamago Shindo Dem Nimenwendam Momayayan. He was the first Indigenous person of almost every single room in a time in which Indigenous peoples were not welcome in courtrooms, in boardrooms, classrooms. That meant he spent a lot of time explaining, teaching, listening, and walking alongside a country that didn't always want to hear what he had to say.
What is my purpose in life? My purpose in life is in my name. The name
we now welcome the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister.
Murray always thoughtfully listened, even when he disagreed. A smile that would come every time he'd gently but firmly point out where I might be wrong. Fill in an element that I hadn't thought of, but really should have. Or, like a real teacher, encouraged me to just put a little more work into my proposed solution.
My name is Phyllis Webstad. I'm the founder of Orange Shirt Day. One of the things that the quotes I use in my presentations for him are, Canada will know it's close to reconciliation when Indigenous people no longer refer to their lives as a healing journey.
My name is Harold Cochran. Murray was general counsel at my law firm called Cochran Sinclair, and we changed it effective October 24th, so just before Murray left us. More importantly, he was a mentor to me, so I'm here to pay respects to the family. He's left a big shadow, big steps for us to follow, and I know at our law firm he's been involved in a lot of the class action work that we've been doing, all meant to address historical wrongs, and that's one of Murray's legacies.
Let truth be a key to freedom and bind you to the path that holds the light.
My name is Grandma Shingus, Jerry Shingus. Murray, that I want you to know that you gave so much love to the survivors, including myself. And today I want to bring that love to you and to your family.
I'm Dan Vandal. I'm the MP for St. Boniface, St. Vital, Minister of Prairies, Minister of the North. Well, I first met Murray around 1986 when I was working for the Mamawewichi Tata Center. He just led by example. The message I took away from my interactions with him was never be afraid to advocate what you believe in, and always, always, always be proud of where you come from.
We would like to now invite Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary Simon, Governor General of Canada.
At the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I was very emotional. Senator Sinclair came to me and comforted me with warmth and compassion. People felt a sense of trust and authenticity around him, that they could be who they are without judgment.
David Chartrand, President of the Red Room Métis. His name will linger in the halls of courts, in the halls of governments and parliament. But you look at pride. You know, he brought pride back to our people without anybody realizing what was happening as the change was happening. You've seen the people, Indigenous people, stand up and begin to defend their rights, begin to stand up for injustices.
My name is Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak. I'm the Assembly of First Nations. I'm the National Chief. It's not always easy to talk about the history of this country, what has happened with residential schools, what has happened in the justice system. He spearheaded those head on, and he's changed the trajectory of our people. We're thankful to his family for sharing him with us.
I want to invite someone who has been very kind and generous to celebrate the life of my dad, Premier Wab Kinew.
Consecrated by a traditional pipe, Murray swore me in as the 25th Premier of Manitoba. And on that day, he shared those words with us. You have to learn to love the people, even when they don't love you. But I have to say, in the days since Murray drew his final breath, I've reflected that it's not just good advice for leaders. That is good advice for life.
Remember me when the sun comes up in the morning sky, there I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me.
Sean Carlton is a University of Manitoba Associate Professor in the Department of History and Indigenous Studies. During a recent episode of Face to Face, we discussed the life and legacy of the late Murray Sinclair.
Quite simply, Murray Sinclair changed Canada forever. There's no going back. As a result of his tireless work to advocate for Indigenous people, but in particular, his work with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, right? That's a true gift. And his passing is a profound loss for people doing this work. But I did have the good fortune of attending his memorial service here in Winnipeg with my family to pay respects. And I think what struck me is that, you know, he really believed in a better future, that we can do this hard work and come through the other side to develop a better society. And with his passing, I think that torch now passes to all of us.
That's all the time we have for this special edition of APTN National News, where we look back on the life and legacy of Murray Sinclair. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Enjoy your New Year's Eve and all the best to you all in 2025.